All right, I think this time I got it. I think this time I'm streaming properly. Welcome back. If you've been getting notifications, you got to cut me some slack. I don't know how many people actually, you know how every single person always asks you, like, like, subscribe, and click notifications. I've actually never asked people to click the button for notifications, so maybe that was why. Maybe that was, everything happens for a reason. Maybe I never asked you to click the bell for notifications because I knew the day was coming where I had to experiment with live and go live unnecessarily 4 times to test out the equipment. I think one of the problems with me and maybe some other people, in my last live attempt, I don't know, one didn't have audio, and I think one had jittery audio. I don't know why. I think I didn't maybe give it enough bandwidth. But I kind of, whatever. I already lost my train of thought. But what I was trying to say is, like, with these things, I can always learn them. But like many people, you ever use like a quick tutorial? Like, let's say you're good at something. Let's say you're good at painting. But then painting I don't know, certain thing that is not customary, it's not normal, you just look up to make sure you know how to do it properly. So you're like, well, I know painting, so how difficult could it be? So maybe you look up a YouTube video on how to paint, let's say, gutters. You got to repaint those gutters. Let's say you look up this non-existent video of painting gutters, and you watch the first few minutes, like, oh, you just got to turn the corner, and then you get it in that little okay, I got it. Well, that was the equivalent of what I did for YouTube Live. I opened the YouTube tutorial in an arrogant fashion, thinking, what is this, 3 buttons once you have the equipment set up, and then you just skip the rest. It's the same thing. Every video, every skill I've had to utilize in all these videos, every Photoshop thumbnail I created that you can find on my profile, any sort of parody, all that stuff I learned by myself. I'm self-taught via YouTube, but it's a different strategy. YouTube plus error because of impatience. That's what the majority of my videos come from. Like, I will try to learn how to do something. For example, face tracking in After Effects. Okay. It's a 10-step process. I get to step 4 where they actually show you how to outline the face. That's it. I just make up the rest on my own. Because once I get that first step going, now I'm into it and I don't have time for the other steps. So I inevitably go falling off of a cliff. And this is my trial and half learn, half trial, half error, then relearn the rest way of getting things done. My guess is that this stream right here, this one, is honestly probably decent. I think this one is actually set up properly, and that means going forward, it's not going to be this game of, oh my god, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if you heard it on the last jittery attempt at this, but part of the reason that I want to set up these live streams is because I built this studio. Actually, I'm working on multitasking. I'm working on ADD. So I'm going to come back to the point that I just said of part of the reason I built this studio was for blank. But before that, I just want to mention, I obviously built this studio. I don't know if you've paid attention to me at all or if you've seen on social media. It's like a borderline legit studio, and there's a green screen wall that curves around the whole corner here. So what you see kind of right here, it kind of curves around there, and then I have a full green screen wall that I use for parodies or other types of stuff that I shoot. And when it came to building this, I actually had to learn how to build this. It's called a cyc wall, or an infinity wall, where the wall curves into the ground. Like if you see most studios or most places that have professional setups to shoot things, you'll notice that it's always curved into the ground. And if you're wondering why that is, it's because if it wasn't that way, you'd have the creases where the wall met the floor. And then whether it's for keying things out or like it's just a legit, not just only distraction, but it's going to make it difficult. So what you do with those infinity walls is it just looks like it goes forever, and then it's easy to key out. Same thing. Remember those Mac commercials where it was just white everywhere, or whether you're talking about in Stranger Things, the when 7-Eleven, is her name 7 or is it 11? I actually don't even remember. I've watched 3 seasons, and I don't remember if her name is 7 or 11. 7? Who's 7? It's got to be 11 because, well, anyway, those scenes where you just see her in the upside down in the pitch black when she puts on her, blinding bandana or whatever the hell she does, and then goes into the upside down, and it's just kind of, there's no depth perception. So that's what that is. And by the way, the multitasking, here it is back. So I built this studio not just to have things. I mean, the least I should do is have the ability to stream live. I mean, that's part of the reason you'd build something like this. I will say this. When you're streaming live on YouTube, I may be alone here in this studio, which means a few things. Number one, it's going to be very difficult for me to do any sort of, look, there's a person in the chat and they said, hi, what are you doing next Friday? Do you go bowling on Fridays? Because that makes for the worst streams. Poor sentence, poor grammar. But when I kind of attempted to do streams on Instagram, I did try one on TikTok. If you're one of those people, and I'm sure you've seen these before, you've seen the TikTokers where they come with nothing prepared. There's zero show prepared for these TikTokers. And then they just wait for people to come in. And they're just hovering like, hey, Dan, F19, where are you coming from? Oh, cool, Ohio? That's cool. Oh, yeah, I flew over Ohio once. Yeah. Man, you guys aren't giving me much. Yeah, that's what most live streams are on these platforms. So if I resort to looking at chats and whatnot, this is going to be awful. I mean, there's a chance you think this is awful to begin with, but at least you get some sort of nonsense coming out of my mouth, opposed to me looking at a screen. By the way, that's what my first attempt at a live was. I didn't know I was live, and I actually was, thank God I don't have millions of subscribers, because this would be the thing. Like, can you imagine, like, oh, Pharrell Williams doesn't know he's live as he's just trying to adjust the settings, and you people are looking at my pores in 4K. I don't think that's possible. I think the max that this allows is 1080p, but they didn't give me 1080p. Right now, you're getting 720. Oh, that's the other thing I got to check. This better be going out in HD, because I think this automatically posts afterward, and I think that version will be in at least 720. This has got to be in HD. This is not 1984. Well, they say 1984 is what we're living. But you know what I'm saying. 1984. I mean, nobody's going to watch this thing if it's if the little thumbnail shows us there's Andy Francess in standard definition broadcasting live from Marty McFly's basement in 1985. No. So, be patient with me. But like I said, assuming this goes right, then we're good to go. Because part of the reason I'm doing this, by the way, look, I'm not going to pat myself on the back too much. By the way, you're on YouTube. This is streaming live on YouTube. So if you want, you could even leave the live and YouTube a name called Barry Horowitz. Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, space Horowitz, like horoscope, Witz, like David Berkowitz. He used to pat himself on the back. He was what is known as a jobber in wrestling. And for those of you who don't know me, I was a huge wrestling fan as a kid, and then I threw in the towel when they threw in the towel on actual entertainment. So when I was a kid, there was a guy named Barry Horowitz. When he successfully completed a move, because he never won a match, he would pat himself on the back. And not to Barry Horowitz myself, but this is not bad for... no preparation to just hop on here and be able to riff, for lack of a better term. I think part of my training, whether it's acting, but even more specifically, when I do the green screen scenes that you could see on my YouTube profile here, if you happen to stumble across my account and you don't even really know who I am, probably some of my best work would be some of the green screen parodies that you'll find by scrolling down. And after a while, in the beginning, it's a little awkward though. Even though I've been in a ton of acting classes, I've auditioned, I've been on a decent amount of stuff in comparison to people who haven't done it. Not obviously like a working actor or anything like that, but it's a whole different deal when you're by yourself in a room and you're honestly trying to convey emotions to a lamp on a wall. And I know a lot of actors out there will know, like when they rehearse before going on an audition or whatnot, how weird it could be when you're trying to run lines at home and you don't have somebody to do it with. Well, imagine you actually had to film those, because that's kind of what I do. And I think it prepared me well for situations like this, you know? Anyway, so I think this is actually a good relative start here. Like I said, the goal. Well, like I said, I didn't really say it unless we're referring to my previous failed stream. But part of the goal here is that I want to have a version of the podcast available on YouTube. Now, I would imagine that after it's over, I could take a separate audio recording and maybe, chuck some of it out if it's not clean or whatnot. Because when I upload the podcast to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the other platforms, I like it to be a little crispy. I added a couple sound effects, a couple transition sounds, a little intro. And I know I could do that on here at some point. I could use, one of these switcher boards, and I can start putting in graphics, and I can do all that stuff. But as I'd mentioned on the fail attempt at the live stream, it's kind of like a DJ, I would imagine. I have no DJ experience, never DJ'd. I hardly know two DJs, but I know two of them. I know two legitimate DJs, and my guess is when they started DJing, that transition from song A to song B was not quite as smooth as it is now. And then eventually gets to a certain point where the words that are coming out of your mouth, you can honestly, like, this is a Stephen A. Smith quality. Stephen A. Smith can do this. If he needs to just blurt out, like, pre-planned sentences, like he has 9, like, go-to sentences that he can just dial up if he needs to do something else. Like, literally, he can text him like, "That's so blasphemous," and the Cowboys ain't gonna, but while he's completely thinking about something else. But me, awful multitasker, the worst. I rank in the bottom 4% east of the Mississippi. I don't know what's west of it, but I'm a bottom 4 multitasker east of the Mississippi. And you got to see things that I'm trying to do to make myself better at this, at multitasking. I swear to God, this is something I did. I tried to brush my teeth while doing something else with my left hand. And then you got to see it. Whether it's combing my hair or putting something or washing I try to brush my teeth, with a very specific motion, a circular, and I know if it gets disrupted, like the classic one, like, oh, I can't do that either. The circles here and the tapping your head there. Well, we need to start working that up. Or whether I got to start playing Sudoku or these fill in the blank games. I had mentioned on a previous version of the podcast that I talked about it. I talked about how I need to work on, the memory. You like how I had to dial that up like a conductor? But these are things that needs to be working on. My multitasking, my random memory. My memory is a weird thing. Are any of you guys like this, where you remember the most obscure details about things? Like somebody tells you the name of a bar that they went to where they got into a fight in college, and you'll remember that. And yet the person who just introduced themselves to you, you won't remember their name. You won't remember their name 3 days later, but you remember the name of the bar that they got in a fight with somebody at. Well, I suffer from that. It's called random detail remembering. RDM. RTM. RDR. Reading Railroad. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. All right, well, I think this test has now concluded. But I do foresee myself using this I want to try to do it once a week so that there's a video version of the podcast. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes from there. We'll take it from there. But maybe YouTube. They over their dead body. Will they ever suggest me to somebody? But maybe you have those platforms who, when you start utilizing their features, they are all right. Maybe let's show this guy to it, because they are showing me they're showing me to 5 people in Uganda. So, if you're new to the channel for whatever reason, I understand your first thought is, I want to hate this guy. I've had many people in my life. Those few people who are honest with you, they said, when I met you, I hated you. And it wasn't your personality. It was just the way you walked in and your look. Look, there's people who have unlikable faces. And I've had multiple people convey to me, including a teacher. I got to give this guy credit. My 9th grade English teacher. I did pretty well in classes. And at the end of the year, before we broke for summer, he said to me, I want to apologize to you. I was like, what are you talking about? 9th grade, you don't care about anything. He said, I honestly thought you were, when you walked into the classroom, I kind of prejudged you a little bit. I thought you were just a loudmouth knucklehead. And it turned out that I was a loudmouth decent student. Okay? The loudmouth was a correct assessment, but I wasn't a dirtbag. So, many times, it's not too dissimilar from when you perform comedy. I look forward to a time period where I walk into a place and people are like, oh yeah, we know who this is. We're coming to see him. You have a little leeway. You have a little leeway when you do that. If some people come to see you, and I know what people who have that leeway will tell you is like, oh yeah, but you can get lazy and then you don't even have a good self-gauge. Well, do you know what the opposite is? Every single time I take the stage, and I have no problem with it, all right? I'm a combative person. I'm willing to take on a fight, but every single time I take on a stage, like when I went onto stage in Tampa a couple months back, or even any time here in New York, people look at me, and it's almost like they don't want to laugh. You have to turn somebody who, their first thought is, I don't know this guy. He's probably not funny. If I don't know this comedian, never heard of him, odds are he's not making me laugh. Now, you have to take that mini attitude that people have, and let's be honest, it's fair to have that. When you hear somebody call, oh yeah, from the Tonight Show or whatever, you go, okay, there's just something that clicks in you. This guy, he's going to be able to make me laugh. So even if he starts off a little bumpy, you're going to give him that a little extra leeway. Somebody like me, I don't have one extra chain link of leeway, and I'm not even complaining about it. I'm just saying that's the way it is. That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. All right, guys, it was a pleasure here, and girls and others. It was a pleasure here on this first live stream. I hope nobody's here. Like I said, I have a lot of practice talking to nobody. It's honestly a specialty of mine. Probably why I'm not married. I can get in an argument with myself and then sleep on the couch. All right, guys, take it easy. And here comes the, I guess, awkward moment where I have to lean in, click end stream, and not really say anything. So let's see how this goes. This will be the end of the stream. And like in Wayne's World where they go, blah-loo-loo, blah-loo-loo, blah-loo-loo. Oh, your stream will stop. I clicked it, and it should have been a natural. One more time. Blah-loo-loo, blah-loo-loo. Oh, look, you're the multitasking. Look, I can't click the button and do this. You ready? You're going to do this with me. You ready? The Wayne's World. Blah-loo-loo, 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 blah-loo-loo.